Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Feig, and you're watching the whole podcast.
Welcome to The Whole. I am Rob Sprance.
And I'm Lori Levine.
And boy, am I honored. Dean Norris is joining us. Dean, thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome, guys. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's a bit of a celebrations in order. Your new show's a hit in the ratings.
It is, man. We're really excited about that, obviously. They put us in a real nice time slot right after their big hit, Young Sheldon. So having Chuck Lorre as your producer has benefits.
Yeah, it sure does. So the show is called The United States of Al. It's Thursdays at 8:30. It's a little different look for you, Dean, because you're doing a sitcom this time around. But I've seen them. There's 3 episodes, I think, so far. You're 85 away from syndication. Congratulations on that. So you're almost there already. But what one of the things that I've noticed about it is, while it's a sitcom, it's got a lot of heart compared to some of the others. It's not just punchline, punchline, punchline. Like, there's a lot of heart behind it too.
Yeah, and it was really, that's kind of an important part of doing the show. I know that Chuck has with mom and alcoholism and addiction, and he's trying to reach out and be kind of more deal with serious issues in a comedy. And particularly in this, the topic of this show is just something that I don't think would have really gotten much play were it not, certainly not in Middle America, were it not for a producer as powerful as Chuck Lorre and a network as powerful as CBS to get it out there. So it's, comedy's a new thing for me, but I'm enjoying it. And it's nice to be in service of something that's kind of a serious topic. So that makes it special.
Yeah, while you say comedy's a new thing for you, it really isn't in a lot of ways, because that's, there's always been a humorous part to all of your biggest characters. I mean, Hank Schrader made us laugh, a lot, and I mean, Uncle Daddy from Claus. I mean, it's not like you don't have that in you, and generally you're a funny guy.
You're a really funny person. I saw behind the scenes on United States versus Al, where you can't get out of the car, so you climb through the windshield.
Yeah.
The whole crew is cracking up.
Yeah, we have a lot of fun on that show. It's nice to go to work and the goal is to be funny as opposed to going to work and being depressed as a la Breaking Bad,
Right.
Or at least the last half of Breaking Bad. Yeah, I guess so. But this is officially a comedy, and it's particularly in a sitcom. It's a different kind of craft, it just is. Like the other ones, you're just in kind of being a character, and the character maybe is in some funny situations. But this one, there's an intentional, obviously, element where you're trying to make people laugh. And it's just a little bit different on a sitcom in terms of the shape and the of the show and the scripts and things like that, And it's a skill that I'm still learning, but I'm enjoying the process.
What surprised you the most in the difference of how it works? Because I think most of the time you've got sets on everything, but right now you can't have an audience, right? Even if you wanted to.
Yeah, well, we have the producers and writers, and we have some. We end up having a loose audience of 50 to 100 that are kind of there, the crew and everybody else. The crew kind of becomes our audience, But yeah, it's unfortunate we can't do it in front of an audience. Hopefully, in the fall, we can, because you miss that kind of that jolt of energy from a live audience,
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll get back to that.
Anything surprise you about the process of sitcoms versus how other dramas go? Because, I mean, we're going to get to all of them, but you've been in so many, whether it be a couple of episodes or just full runs, most of the time they're dramas or those, not so much in front of an audience, just more of a filmed drama.
Yeah. I mean, the process of, I think with the interesting thing, I think, is that I guess it's always in the script, but particularly in a sitcom, they are down to the split, to every letter and every word and every like I always felt I would take lines a little bit looser in a drama, not completely improv at all by any means, but in a sense, make them my own more, so that I can make the lines my own and maybe changes. But we're in a sitcom; they're really particular on how they write, and literally, a different word or a different, kind of emphasis here or there makes a whole difference in whether the line works. Yeah. So it surprised me how precise things have been, and yet when they are precise like that, they seem to work better. So these guys know what they're doing, and I listen to them.
Yeah, well, I guess you've got 22 minutes to get the whole entire story beginning to end across. So I guess every beat, every second really does make a difference.
Yeah, exactly. And, and it just, but I find it fascinating and fun. And the people I work with have all been on sitcoms. So we're having a good time figuring it out together.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I kind of want to touch on a little bit of how you got to this point. You've been acting, I mean, since the 80s. You've been in tons of different things. But before that, in doing some research, there are things that I find out that I never knew. Like, I'm sure you get that all the time too. But the fact that you graduated from Harvard.
So you're like the smartest person in the world, basically. Like valedictorian of your high school.
Yeah.
Hasty pudding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got in. Neither of my parents went to college. So it was a big deal for me to go to college at all, and happened to get into Harvard. I didn't even think about it really. It's my high school English teacher, I believe, is the one who said, "Hey, you really should apply to the Ivy League." So I did, and Harvard has this great thing where once you get in, they if you can't afford to go there, they'll pay for you. Oh, so wow. I kind of went on a scholarship, but it wasn't because I was so smart that they gave me money. It was that I was so poor that they gave me money.
It doesn't matter as long as you get the money. Dude.
As long as you get the money, yeah. So that worked out well. And then they didn't have a drama program per se, although they do now. Like in the last 5 years, I think they started one. But the American Repertoire Theater was there with Bob Brustein, who had really started the Yale Drama School, which is very famous. So there was a professional theater there, and then there was all kinds of student extracurricular theater going on. Many of these guys have gone on to be producers and writers in Hollywood as their business. And so we had a great education just with the other students, and I did a whole bunch of plays and had a whole lot of fun. And then by the end of it said, hey, it'd be interesting to try to do this as a living,
How did your parents feel about that, wanting to go into entertainment, because, I mean, usually when you go to Harvard, they've already won. So, I mean, at one point, like when, because you're from South Bend, Indiana, yeah. So it's not exactly the hotbed of entertainment there. Right. Although we did have Isaiah Whitlock was a guest of ours before, and he's gone to South Bend as well. So yeah. maybe it's onto something. Maybe it is a hotbed, and we didn't even realize. But how did your parents feel like when you were they supportive of it? Did they have an issue with it when you wanted to get into that?
No, they didn't. They were very supportive of it. Like I said, in kind of an interesting way. Neither of my parents went to college, and my dad they're both passed away now. But my dad was a singer in a band. He wanted to be a professional singer. And he ended up kind of being a singer in a local band, the Jack Norris Combo. And so he, I think, interestingly felt kind of more connected in a way that his son would be doing something in a line of business that he kind of wanted to do and did professionally. So I think they certainly were very supportive. And I think part of that came from the fact that being an entertainer, they understood more than being a Harvard college graduate.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what'd you wind up doing? Did you wind up you moved to LA to try to see what you could get? Were you already starting to get interest to get you down there in the first place? Because that's the chicken and egg move is something that it takes a lot of courage to just up and move to another, especially LA.
Yeah, I hear you, man, and I'm crazy. I'm glad I was young enough and crazy enough to do it then. I probably wouldn't do it now.
Yeah.
But I actually went to I applied for drama school and I got into this place called the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. So I went there. They also gave me a scholarship, which was nice. And then after a year, I got called back to the ART, the American Repertory Theater, to do kind of a pilot program where they had some students. So I came back to that, was able to get an agent because agents would come up from New York to see other actors in the American Repertory Theater. Got a New York agent, went to New York, slept on a couch for $200 a month. Not a room, a couch.
Which is cheap now because we're New Yorkers, so that's a good deal.
But it was a couch, and I had my suitcase next to it. That was it.
I just looked it up. Couches are going for $4,500 a month. Right now.
That was pre-COVID, Rob. They're down a bit.
Yeah, right.
Ended up getting my first job, which was The Equalizer, where that was a TV show back then, and used that money to fly to LA and just was, crazy. And ended up the agent that I had in New York also had a office in LA, so I didn't have to scramble for that stuff, and that's what made me go to LA because I knew I had representation, and then just started going out on auditions.
So what's the first role you get where you think, you know what, this could actually be something? Because I mean, I know everybody, of course you believe in yourself enough, you've made enough moves already to show that you did, but at some point you're going to need a little validation back, to want to keep going at it.
Absolutely. And luckily I got my first one of my first auditions out here, which was a HBO limited series about the Vietnam War. And that was my very first job. But for realsies, I was waiting tables, and I'd gone in for Lethal Weapon 2 with Dick Donner, and I get a phone call, literally they go, well, you got it. I'm like, wow, what does that mean? And it was like like 3 times as much money a week that I was getting as a waiter, and I had that for like 13 weeks. And I was like, great. Are you sure?
Well, and that's the movie you tell all your friends back in South Bend, like, in your face. I'm Lethal Weapon 2.
Lethal Weapon 2. And, and back in the day, that was the summer blockbuster. It took a year for it to come out. But that gave me enough money, like a lot more money than I needed at the time, to be able to just do acting full time. That's great.
And, I'm sure there were a lot of tables unserved that day and a lot of cold meals.
I was kind. I was like, hamburger goes to number 3 and the steak goes over here, and I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, right. Lethal Weapon, I'm out. And it's one of the other things too that was going around actually at the time of Breaking Bad, but a very, very cool little known fact, at least at the time, about Dean. It's out there now. I think you know where you're going. Is Dean was Tony in Total Recall. There he is with a bit of an eye infection.
I didn't even know that.
Yep, he was Tony in Total Recall.
Yeah. Hey man, that job was big. That was the Lethal Weapon 2. Right, second job was Total Recall. But back in the day, that was like 2.5 months of work, man. Mm-hmm. And that was like hitting the jackpot for an actor.
Like blockbuster after blockbuster.
Yeah, and I did also in between there. I did Hard to Kill with Steven Seagal.
Oh wow!
So those are my first 3 movies.
Mm-hmm. Did you? I don't remember you in Hard to Kill. Were you beaten up or were you?
I was shot at one point. I was one of the bad cops, but. But I was killed by Steven Seagal at one point.
There you go. That's who doesn't want to get that at least once in life?
Yeah, that, and I did Walker Texas Ranger once. I got kicked in the face by Chuck Norris. I thought that was
it's awesome too. Yeah. It's like being insulted by Don Rickles. It's something everybody needs. You need that.
Right. I was yelled at by James Cameron too. That was fun.
Oh, why? What happened? Did you make a mistake?
It was like I'm shooting. I was one of the cops, and he yelled "cut." And I think I shot a couple after by mistake. He was like, "God damn it, shut that!" I was like, "Wow, I've been yelled at by James Cameron."
This is great. This is great. So this is why you're not an Avatar. Now I understand. It all makes sense now. So the list went on and on. I mean, you've been in Lost, you've been in 24, you've been in 6 Feet Under. ER, X-Files, NYPD Blue, which, is, especially at the time, was a cutting-edge drama, very pushing the envelope for television. Now it's probably nothing compared to, what it is now. But at the time, I remember that was a very big deal, that show.
Yeah, that was I was thrilled to get. That was actually my first multiple episode TV show I got. It was Bochco and the hottest show on TV, and I was slated to come back on the second season, and that's when what's his name now? The lead of that show quit. Do you remember
David, right?
David, yeah. So I'm sitting there going, all right, I'm coming back for 6 more episodes. Caruso.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden in the I read in the press that he's decided to quit the show. And since I played one of his best friends and his priest, there went my role. And I was like, God damn.
Yeah. Come on.
There's still a role for his best friend?
Yeah, I mean, come on. Somebody has to be blessed at some point. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They didn't see it that way. So.
Yeah, I guess not. Well, look, all of these roads you lead to what, in my opinion, is the greatest drama of all time in Breaking Bad. It was one of those little 6-episode shows that AMC tried out. I didn't even know about it until probably the 3rd season, and like a lot of people, caught up and then was frustrated. I had to wait week to week. But how did you wind up getting that part? I mean, it just fit you so perfectly.
Was it written for you?
Or vice versa?
It wasn't written for me, but I think I recall my manager at the time saying, because I read it, and I was like, "Oh man, this is my role." This is, oh man, I could rip this up. And I remember, I believe that my manager said, they think you might be too perfect for the role.
Oh man, are you serious?
I swear to God. The casting agent, and I said, "That's like." I mean, I've been lost roles for being too short, too tall, too fat, too skinny, too this, too that. You can't lose a role for being too right for it, right? I mean, that would just be too much to ask.
I know.
Luckily, I got in and just met with Vince Gilligan right off the bat, and we did a few readings, and that was it, man. Came back, tested for the network, and it was pretty quick and simple.
Yeah, and on all the best shows, there's a couple of things that you really need. The writing needs to be fantastic, which it is. The cast needs to be, every single person in the cast needs to be excellent, and that landed as well. But more importantly, the characters over time need to grow and develop. And Hank Schrader absolutely does that. Like in the beginning, he's almost the catalyst for one of the reasons why Walt goes the route he does. I mean, Hank is everything that Walt is not. He's
right.
Cool. He's cool. His son idolizes him. He's funny. He's the life of the party. And none of that applies to Walt. And especially early on, they make a focus of that. But then as time goes on, you start to learn a lot more about Hank, and there's just, there's a lot of strength or weakness. There's a lot of things that you really brought to the role that help evolve the character for sure.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was in the season 3 when Hank really takes a dark turn. And I remember asking my wife, I'm like, I wonder are they going to ask me to audition again for this role? Because
it's so different.
It was completely, it was a completely different direction for the character, and have always been appreciative of Vince Gilligan for doing that. He did that for all the characters, but to kind of trust us to go on that journey, and because it really was, Hank from season 1 is completely different from Hank in season 4, 5, and 6, so.
Yeah. Yes, season 1, Hank, you want to hang out with, but you almost don't. It's like, he's just, what? I like him at my party, but I also don't want him at my party. He's that guy. He's that guy. So because the first season was so short, like when do you start to get a feel like in your regular day-to-day life that wow, this show is actually becoming something, like this is affecting my regular life now. I go outside and people calling me Hank rather than Dean.
Right.
When does that start?
Well, it started, I think, season 3. At the beginning, like you said, it was shortened, by the way, by the writer's strike. I think we were going to do 8 or 9 episodes, and ended up being the shortened season for the first one because of the writer's strike, which I'd probably been told before. But that saved my buddy Gomey's life because he was supposed. I don't think he was supposed to make it in another couple episodes.
And neither was Aaron Paul. They were going to.
It was Aaron Paul. That's right. Yeah. So that gave them a time to think through things and kind of. But it was funny because I was living in Albuquerque at the time, and it was a writer's strike, so I just stayed there with my family, and I'd play golf with Stephen Michael Quezada like every week, and I kind of somehow I knew that wasn't in it. And he was talking about the next season and everything. I'm like, I can't be the one that says anything, And thank God I didn't.
Right.
It would have bummed him out for no reason. But anyway, where we? Oh yeah. So by season 3. You started to feel that in the business in particular, amongst writers and producers and people you hung out with in LA, they were all into the show. But the public still wasn't quite there. And from 4, 5, and 6, between the 5th and the 6th season, which they called 5A and 5B, it just went astronomical because everybody caught up with it on Netflix. Netflix is, I believe they coined the term binge watching for Breaking Bad, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, makes sense.
And that's when Netflix stock was $10, and it's like, oh, this new thing came along where they're streaming, and they realized that they needed good enough quality material that people would sit down and watch it serially and binge watch it. That's when they started pouring money into stuff. But it wasn't really until that, between seasons 5 and 6, it really jacked up and became this kind of cultural thing, and it was like being in the Rolling Stones for about 6 months, It was fun.
Yeah, and I do feel that was. Look, Hank has some great moments throughout. There's some clinics of acting between you and Aaron Paul, and there's and all of them. But I think there's a moment in Hank's arc, and I actually remember this like it was yesterday when. The toilet scene, when you actually, I think you tweeted when the season came back, I think you tweeted it's time to shit or get off the pot. I remember that. I remember that the day before. But that, I think, from Hank's moment from there, as an actor, that character, it really expanded because now you're not just, you're the DEA guy that's just searching. All of a sudden now, and by the way, if you're still listening or watching and you haven't seen the show yet, you might want to pause it or come back, or like, what's wrong with you at this point if you haven't seen it? Because I'm going for it. But that's, that was the point where you really shined acting as well, because now, you could see the weight in your face of what you figured out.
Yeah. And that was those were very heady times. I remember those years well of filming that show and getting those scripts and it was kind of depressing, and to be honest with you, just to kind of be in that mode and during the time. I remember that very well of like, oof, God dang, but it was all worth it for the show. Heady times.
Yeah. So you actually do wind up taking that home with you a little bit, because you almost have to, right? You have to, because it's hard to go home, have a beer, start joking around, and then go back and have to quickly snap back into that mode.
I didn't intentionally try to do that, but it just did stay with you, because you're spending 14 hours in a really, not so great place. And I think it just kind of, I don't know, it stays with you. It stayed with me at least during the time we were doing it. And I lost both my parents during the shooting of Breaking Bad. One, oddly enough, it just kind of a weird thing that it kind of, at the same time that my character kind of turned. So I wasn't feeling great in the first place. And luckily, the show I didn't have to go, hey, hanky anymore.
Yeah.
It was also, I could use what was going on in my real life in those final couple seasons.
Yeah, because the character goes through his own depression more than once. The first when after Mexico kind of shocks him in a lot of different ways, and the whole thing with Marie and him being home and a guy who's just so used to going out there and getting it, can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So I can see what you mean. Where a lot of that's pretty heavy. I'm so sorry, Dean. You had a rough run. You had a rough run. So
it was. But
so when the show becomes to that next level popular, how ahead of time are you getting the scripts? What are they doing to protect them? Because now it was getting to the point where everybody was waiting for the next episode. So, are you only getting certain things? Are you still getting the whole script? I know some shows go to such dramatic lengths to hide certain things. Like, were you all aware of the end game for everyone beforehand? Did you know what Hank's end game was beforehand?
Yeah, I knew. Vince told me 2 years ahead of time.
Oh wow! So he knew.
Yeah, so we had made, because everyone had made the final deals to finish the show, and they knew that it was going to come to an end. And he actually sat me down and said, "Hey, you're gonna either the second to last one or somewhere around there. You're gonna die, but you're gonna die with your dignity." And I think he even quoted almost the line of you can go fuck yourself. And he said, "You're gonna this is how it's gonna go down." But the thing I remember most, he said, Hank's going to die, but he's going to die with his dignity.
She sure did. He sure did.
Yeah. And so we kind of knew it was going there. Yeah, they started getting tight about releasing the scripts. And it was, toward the end, they really wanted to keep, it was such a weird thing because people all wanted to find out, but also the real fans didn't want to find out because they wanted to see the thing, Yeah. So, and I know they had a whole department at Sony knocking down stuff on the internet that people had maybe found a script and tried to release it or this or that. So,
crazy that he would say the episode before the last, or I think it wound up being two before.
Yeah.
It's also, in my opinion, the best episode of the series, and Ozymandias, because so many things go down. That's a big one for sure. But it's great that you were able to hang in there until maybe just a few before the end.
Yeah.
So how does that feel, like that last day that you're going and this is the one where like you have to say goodbye to someone that you kind of know but you don't.
Yeah, it was great, man. And everybody came out. Vince was out there. They had a big sign. They had a big picture that everybody had signed, and it was a really emotional time to end. And Ryan Johnson, by the way, who has gone on to quite great fame as a director and other things, he directed that particular episode.
Yep.
And it was, man, it was, everybody shows up, and it's like, everyone's some tears in the eyes, and everyone's, and it's bye-bye to that character,
Yeah,
and
so,
I got on a plane that after I got done in like around 1 or 2 o'clock, and I was supposed to stay, and I was like, I got on a plane and went on to my next job.
Yeah. So that was what I was going to ask you. Do you, as things get bigger and bigger and bigger, you just mentioned you had another job, and of course you probably
was that Uncle Daddy?
No, it was Under the Dome.
Under the Dome,
Stephen King thing. Yeah,
on CBS. But do you start to, as the seasons wind down, do you start to think like you have probably a little more pressure on you to pick the right thing, or like what's next? Because how do you follow something like that? It's hard.
That was a big discussion, and in my own brain, it was also discussion with, I talked to Bryan Cranston, and because he was kind of our leader, not only in the show, but also, he's kind of been around the business more. And, it was a real interesting time, because if I had waited for another Breaking Bad, I'd still be unemployed.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you're thankful of the time to have gotten that show, but I'm also, I got 5 kids and you got to keep working, So in my particular case, it was one of the first Under the Dome which is it was a Stephen King novel. Steven Spielberg was producing it. CBS. I met with the CBS head of CBS, Nita Tasser at the time, and literally an hour later, they're like, "Here's the role," and it was already greenlit for 13 episodes, which was now that's kind of they do that a lot, but back then that was a big deal.
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, hello, goodbye cable show. Let's do CBS Network."
Yeah, exactly.
Because and there, quite honestly, I don't think there's a show that I've seen that I was pissed I wasn't available for.
That's a good way to look at it. Like, you've seen all of them. So have you ever in the past, anything you've ever passed on that you were like, why did I pass on this? Like when you're watching it later, I mean.
No, I mean, there's a couple I've said, why did I do it? But, no. And, I don't mean to knock anything that's out there. I just don't know that I go, wow, that's the one show I should have done, or even if I wasn't up for it, there's not a show out there that I go, oh, that's the next Breaking Bad. I don't know that there has been, in my humble opinion. There's been some great shows,
sure,
but just not one that I would have fit in, maybe, or something. I don't know.
I agree, but you also see now a lot of the shows are following some of those blueprints of Breaking Bad, and it's hard to like. I really enjoy the show Ozark.
Yeah.
But clearly, there's that feeling of a guy who's in over his head. He gets into, there's another great show on FX called Snowfall. John Singleton does that one.
Yep.
Very similar again. It's, someone who, there's always somebody, a cop in the family or right next door. It's, it's the same type of thing. So, if Breaking Bad, which I think, a lot of, when it started, reality TV was a big deal then, a lot more than it is now. Thankfully, right. I think streaming services and a lot of people love reality TV, all well and good, but there was a time where it was genuinely scripted shows were in danger because it was so cheap to just throw a bunch of people on an island half naked and just see what happens, So I do think that Breaking Bad paved the way so that a lot of people are like, you know what, we can still make shows like this, and these streaming services now jumping in. Now there's too many shows. Lori and I were talking about it earlier, like can't even catch up.
But even with all those shows, if you look at with COVID going on right now, it says like the 10 shows to watch during quarantine to stream. Breaking Bad is on every single list still.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we can still get seen. I mean, at one point, going back to the streaming Netflix, when it started, it was 30%, I believe they told us at one point, of Netflix's streaming. 30% of the broadband was going to
their global streaming.
Yeah.
26% was me, Dean. Sorry.
What's that?
I was 26% of that, but go ahead.
And it's going on so that I continue to get. I was just with my son he was visiting a college he's going to go to. He's 18, and all the his age kids, that's their favorite show. And he literally was 5 years old when I started doing the show. So now you get to college, and all of a sudden you're old enough to stream these shows, or you're a senior in high school, whatever. So it becomes like a book on a shelf, and everybody reads it when they get to college now. Mm-hmm. So it continues to kind of resonate with people, and I think it will for a while. So
yeah, and I have to bring this up before we move on to the next thing, which is Schrader Brow. Yeah, and not only is it a beer, you turn it into a real beer, which I tried to order some. I think you can only get it in certain areas, so I'm not able to get it shipped. But that was cool that you got into the brewing business there for a little bit.
Yeah, I think we'll still bring that out again. We kind of wanted, it was kind of matched with the 10-year anniversary of the show, and then El Camino coming out and stuff. So it was just fun to do. I have a buddy who's well into the beer business, and we found a brewery, and it was cool. It was fun to take it out.
Yeah, when they're ready, I'm going to get some. I want to taste it. It's a cool thing.
Yeah, it was a good beer. I think we'll try to get it back again for Oktoberfest. We'll see.
Nice. So I was watching, moving on, I was watching an interview that you did where you were talking about there was a website that just listed the sexiest bears as far as men that and you were in the bear category.
I was in the bear. I am in the bear category.
You're in the bear category. So not only do you take this up a notch, but talk about embracing that Uncle Daddy and Claus.
Yeah,
that is where I mentioned earlier about just the perfect blend of comedy and drama, and you seem to really have fun with that one.
I love Uncle Daddy. I love Uncle Daddy. I love the show. When they said, actually, that's a Warner Brothers show, actually. And I remember I was doing, I might have been doing a Big Bang, which is also a Warner Brothers show. And the casting agent came and said, I got this role. It's crazy. And they said, what's the name? Oh, Uncle Daddy. I'm like, send it. And I read that role, and I loved it. I still love it. We got another season. We've already finished. It'll be coming out. And just had a blast. It was a recasting. I turned down the pilot.
Okay.
And then they shot it, and then they came. Then they picked it up, they came to me again and said, "You sure you don't want to check this out again?" And I said, "Okay." And that's when I really gave it the consideration that I thought it deserved. And I was like, "Yeah, this will be fun. Heck, let's do it." Yeah. And ended up doing it. So.
Was it the robe? Did they send you the robe? Is that what put you over the top?
Yeah, that was fun. I kind of had a lot to do with in conjunction with the costume designer, all of his stuff. I said I wanted big, rings and all the stuff and all the crazy exotic stuff. So that was fun.
Yeah, I remember someone was they were talking about. I thought it was a new show. I said, "Oh, Dean's in it," and the article starts off with, "Dean plays a bisexual crime boss." I'm like, sold.
Yeah, he was Dixie Mafia, man. That was great. And we shot it. We shoot that down in New Orleans, and it was a really good time. I just enjoyed the heck out of that show.
That's awesome. So there's another. I was actually wondering if you could shed some light on this. There was a trailer release for a show called Nova Vita about a year ago, which looked fantastic, but I have not heard anything else about it. Do you know what's happening with that?
I don't. I know it was an interesting thing. It was kind of an independently produced TV series, and so I don't know where they're at in the selling of it or where they're going to try to get it to air. And I haven't heard yet. So I know they're trying to sell it, but they produced it independently of a network. So, yeah.
That makes sense why we haven't heard from it. They're trying to find a place for it because it actually looked really good.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
So what's next for you now? So you have obviously you're focused on the United States of Al. Do you have any other side projects that you're doing at this point that you're working on that are coming out soon, or is this kind of where you're sitting at the moment? You just want to enjoy?
Yeah, doing this. I mean, we just finished Claus because we had a COVID pause from March to September, so we just finished that in December. Then this started right away in end of January. And so I have a couple of movies that I'll be doing on the break. And then hopefully, presumably, but hopefully we'll come back for a season 2, which would start then again in August. So
now the way the ratings are doing, I think you're getting a season 2. I hope so.
I hope so. And I think they're doing well. Yeah. And I think our best shows are yet to come. So I think it's weird with comedies too, is you got to kind of, you got to find your level and find your kind of the mix with all our characters. And we all feel that by the third and fourth episodes that we're gelling more and we're having a lot more fun with it. So I think it's going to continue to do well. Sure.
Yeah. Go back, watch the first episode of Seinfeld, watch the first episode of, any of these
Big Bang.
Friends, Big Bang, like all of them. It's almost a completely different show. Like you just have to, let it evolve and become its own thing,
Right.
But yeah, it's good to see you on that. Like, so you're playing the dad, you're playing Art.
Yeah.
So now you have the sitcom dad zinger role is
But he's like Archie Bunker a little bit.
Yeah. I compared him to Archie Bunker too. Although I've gone back and watched some more of those just to kind of refresh my memory. He's not quite he's not anywhere near as bad in terms of this thing. But the idea
because it is CBS though, so we can't get it anymore.
Yeah, but the idea of being like the kind of Midwest, a dad in a sitcom, that's it's interesting.
And a military dad, like I know this guy.
And I do too. Having grown up in South Bend, Indiana, I know this guy too, Art Nugent.
You have to say the name like that too.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to. Well, Dean, I don't want you to have to sit here and listen to my Breaking Bad questions for 3 more hours. I would never do that to you. I can't thank you enough for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I want everyone to check out United States of Al Thursdays, 8:30 p.m., 7:30 Central. It's doing great in the ratings. It's a good show. It's got a lot of heart. It's got comedy. It's got a little of everything. And like you mentioned, it's in the little Chuck Lorre cradle of success, sitting right in there, right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, thank you again. Appreciate it.
And happy birthday, Dean.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. 38.
Yeah, you can't tell. Yeah, you don't age. That's another thing. I don't even want to get into that. Like, this guy never ages. It's like, oh, it's another birthday. Well, he looks the same, so what's the point? But please, everyone, go check out the show. Support Dean and support United States of Al Thursdays, 8:30 p.m. Thank you so much, Dean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Hang on one second. I'm going to wrap it up and be right back.
All right.
Thank you for watching The Whole. I am Rob Sprance.
And I'm Lori Levine.